welcome to the Sacred Rainbow Warrior. My name is Alistair McLean. Today we are talking about a really cool subject that I love to talk about. We're talking about walk-ins and the innate and the smart body. So I'm going to talk about what is the spiritual walk-in, what is the innate and the smart body, what triggers a walk-in to happen, how to receive the walk-in, what happens when the DNA is activated, what is the purpose of walk-ins, what is a walk-in versus a possession, and the signs and symptoms of a walk-in. And I'm doing a second video on the integration of all of this. Okay. So number one, what is a spiritual walk-in? So on my journey, my spiritual journey, my awakening, my healing journey, I went through, my life's been full of an intense amount of physical and emotional trauma, which took me to the edge. And so I decided to do something about it. And this is what my channel's about. I'm sharing the process and the wisdom of how I got to this incredible place where I'm living in divine union. I'm living a true love story with my partner. We got a sister channel called Prophecy Walkers, and the level of how do I say this? Awakening isn't really the right word, but the level of awareness that comes through multiple walk-ins. I've lost count of how many walk-ins I've had. I've had it between 30 and 50. And I'm going to talk about the innate because the innate is something bigger. And my partner, Hazel, she's done a really eloquent and incredible video about her innate walk-in, her awakening, which is like a big chunk, but I'm going to talk about that later. So essentially what a spiritual walk-in is, it's a part of your soul that's coming back to you. So if you watch my video on soul retrievals, it's also linked to that, but soul retrievals are more linked to the idea of a gift. But gifts do come back with the soul as well, but that I'll talk about that later. So imagine yourself as a soul. You are multidimensional, and if you've watched my video that's called "You Are Broken," which is about the distortion and the breaking of the soul mirror, most people believe that the soul can't be broken. That's not true. The soul's indestructible. It doesn't mean it can't be cracked and broken. And the reason it's broken is through betrayal, through heartache, and through the selling of the soul. And there's a reason we do that, and there's a reason we have done it. And most of the reasons we've done that is we've been manipulated and tricked through fear to give that away, to do an exchange, to stop us from feeling deep emotional wounds, which are covered in toxic shame, aka narcissism. And I'm going to talk about star seeds. I know that's a really how do I say a trigger word for a lot of people. And when I mean trigger, I mean a good trigger where people tend to focus a lot on the word star seed, but I'm gonna go into that in a little bit more depth and what that means with regards to the walk-ins, because it is pretty cosmic and it is pretty wild, but it's also about being grounded in the body, and I'm gonna focus on that more. So a spiritual walk-in is a part of your soul that is coming back to you, and it can happen in various ways, and I'm going to talk about that later on in section 3 of what causes a walk-in to happen. But it's a part of your soul that has been lost, or given away, or stolen, and yes, it can be stolen as well. I'll give you an example of how that can be stolen. That's happened to me numerous times in this lifetime, because it can, you sometimes retrieve soul parts and receive soul parts from previous lifetimes, because there's this reincarnation process where we're essentially reclaiming who we are through this game of love, this process of divine union of healing separation. And when we are in the process of receiving back parts of ourselves, it's through the healing of our DNA. And that is really profound. And I'm going to talk more in depth about that. Now, when another way to define what is a spiritual walk-in is it really is a different being. And when I say a different being, we could say it's not human, but that doesn't mean it's not from Earth. Our history has been doctored and manipulated. And it's through my understanding that multiple races lived here, and they came here in order to gift their DNA to the human race. This is how important this game of love is, and um, how important we are to this greater awakening, not just of Earth and the people of Earth, but of other dimensions, the universe and all of creation, essentially, because that's what the game of love is about. It's about the divine union of God and the goddess. And I've done a video on this on divine union. What is divine union? You can watch that. There's a bit more information on that. So so a star seed is um, they say it's where you're from, but you're a multi-dimensional being. You're not from one place. And I think many of us try to attach to that idea of that we're from, that we're Pleiadian, or we're a mantis being or Arcturian or things like that. But what I've noticed on my journey is I have really close brotherhood and sisterhood with Arcturians, Syrians, some races that I don't even know their names of, gods and goddesses, because and angels, and so much more. We're more than just one star seed, because essentially we come from source. So that's our star seed. We come from source, and it's about reconnecting to source. But because we're so big, and because we've lost so many parts of ourselves, and because we're going through this process of separation and coming back to wholeness, this breaking this illusion of separation through destroying the ego, we we come into a wholeness where we really are, it really is oneness. We really are part of everything. And so the idea of a star seed from another planet is really a bit of a how do I say, like an ungrounded fantasy where we try to, it's a form of escapism. I know that sounds a bit just sort of focus on the camera. So it's a bit ungrounded because we're seated here and our purpose is here. But because it's so painful to be in the body, and I didn't done videos on this in plant medicine integration videos, it can be really difficult to be fully in the body, to be in our heart. That's why most people find it very difficult to work on the root chakra, because the root chakra is what connects us to the Earth Star, and we've been severed from that. And this is about the warriors of the rainbow prophecy. What is the actual prophecy? The rainbow bridge. We are the rainbow bridge. The chakras are the colors of the rainbow, connected to the Earth Star, which is black, and the spirit star, or the soul star or spirit star. I can't remember which one it is, and the divine gateway, etc. There's 18. It's 18 or 17, I can't remember, chakras, and essentially the yin yang, the black and the white, and we are the bridge between heaven and earth, and we're marrying that. That's the prophecy. We're creating heaven on earth through the activation of latent DNA, and this is where it gets really fascinating. So I'm going to move on to number two. What is the innate and the smart body? So the innate, I speak about this numerous videos. If you go on Cryon's channel and Google Cryon innate, he's done books on this called The 12 Layers of DNA. And the innate is essentially the embodiment of your soul in this lifetime, which essentially is the embodiment of God in your body, because you are a part of God. We are all a part of God. We are a unique expression of God, goddess's love, right, from source. And the innate is so big that it's kind of unbelievable to a lot of people, because we've been taught through so many different avenues of manipulation, toxic patriarchy, toxic matriarchy, to believe that love's outside of us, which is dogma. We're taught to believe that love is outside of us, that we are not divine, to despise our humanity, and this shows up through all of the toxic expressions of our fear and of our humanity. And you can see this in art, how art expresses human behavior. And if you've noticed since the 80s and 90s, well, since before, but movies really started to become bigger in the 80s and 90s. you notice how they've gotten darker and darker, and it's really difficult to find a really nice, decent, really good feel-good movie, unlike in the 80s when we had access to so much stuff like The Goonies. And the reason I'm talking about that is the the art is a collective expression of what we're going through. And at the moment, there is a saturation of a lack of inspiration. It's like everybody is going for the same thing. Everybody's trying to accomplish and hustle for something greater, but not knowing what that next step is. And the problem is everybody is going in the not everybody, but most are going in the wrong direction. And it's because we were tricked to head up this ladder, and it's essentially a pyramid scheme. The toxic patriarchy is a pyramid scheme, and it's completely manipulated. And the only thing you're ever going to gain there is time wasting and further time away from your divine purpose. So all these people that are chasing marriage, a beautiful house, and a car, and this rich, lavish lifestyle, it's a great idea, but when you're heading in the right direction, consumerism and attachment and all those things don't really make sense. They're still available, but they don't make sense on that level. And so the innate is just beyond. It's so incredible. When I saw my partner receive her innate, it came in. It was like something out of a sci-fi movie. I saw her whole body change, her clothes changed, and she started speaking this fluent ancient. Started speaking fluently in like this ancient, like I don't know if it's Aztec or Mayan, or I don't know what language it was from. And she was speaking this full-on conversation for about 2 or 3 minutes, and she was grieving, and it came through feeling. And this is what most people don't understand about walk-ins and the innate, is that it's already here. The new human's already here. My partner and I are embodying it and integrating it now, and it's been really difficult. We're coming out after 4 years of receiving and receiving and receiving different parts, more walk-ins, because it's so big, and you become so sensitive to hatred and fear that we had to move to the countryside and stop watching the news and all of that because we become hypersensitive. And when I first, we get set these initiation goals by spirit because we couldn't do it without being in constant communication with spirit because um, so what's the word? It's never been done before. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's pioneering. It's so pioneering what we're doing together because it's divine union that we really needed that guidance. And with that hypersensitivity, you can really feel what's going on in a collective, and it feels like somebody's like jumped on your shoulders, like the whole world's on your shoulders. And so we're holding the light for people to wake up, for people to start going in the right direction. Because, and I speak about this a lot, but we're really influenced to be in the mind and the brain. But the innate is about being in the body. It's about being this beautiful soul, this divine soul in the body. And the only reason we're in the mind is because the mind promotes fear. The reptilian part of the brain. And again, that's a whole story about our Akashic lineage, like the reptilians. They lived here, they were born here, they were created here, right? That's not another planet, that's this planet. Otherwise, how would we have that DNA within us? And there's a whole story behind that. I'm not going to go into that, right? And so it's really cool, but I don't want to go into it, right? Let's concentrate. Innate, right? Yeah, the innate. So the innate is essentially a profound prophecy that defies expectation. If you have any expectations about what is coming, you are going to be blown away because expectation is a limitation that is set again by the mind. Even your wildest expectations cannot conceive how great it's going to be. And the reason I know this is because every time I've had an expectation of who I am or what I am, it's been shattered and it's been hundreds of times greater than what I imagined. And it all comes through vibration and feeling. And my partner and I have been trying to find a way to communicate this because YouTube is very auditory and visual. It doesn't engage unless you're a person who is fully engaged. It doesn't really engage the heart of people that are um, in that mentality, the mentality, right? I've had to go through it myself, this addiction to scrolling, which is dopamine, which keeps us in the mind, whereas serotonin brings us into the body, but it's more than that. There's this really deep vibration that can only come through purity, the purity through the heart. And there's so much dogma and desecration of what love is. Like people don't truly believe in love anymore. But if you go to a Prophecy Walkers channel on the 5/5 on May 5th, you'll see a video of what true love feels like, what it looks like. I've put that out there to help people understand, to remind them through that sacred transmission of tuning in to what it feels like to find true love, because it is still available. But we are told through stories and movies and the constant horrible news of deaths and diseases and lockdowns and all of this stuff, we're kept in the dark, and um, our true power is suppressed. Our divinity, the love, true love, like these fairy tales, people don't pay attention to them anymore. They think they're just fairy tales, but fairy tales come from the imagination. The imagination is access to the network, the grid network of what is available, and that can sometimes come through invention, but it also comes through animism and stories. If you listen to my podcast, which is about spirit animal wisdom, episode the crab one, I think it's 16, is it? Episode, yeah, the crab, the spider crab. It's about stories, the ocean shaman, the stories of emotions are shamanic, and the coding of awakening and the innate is passed down through stories. Like the Three Little Pigs is a profound story. If you can understand the spirit animal wisdom of the pig and the wolf, it's profound. The Three Little Bears and Goldilocks and the Three Little Bears. All these stories are profound, and there's so many of them. And back to what I was saying earlier on about Cryon, when when we learned about that, my partner and I, we learned about it in 2021. We met in 2020 and we started working in ceremony together. And when we saw this video and he started talking about the 12 layers of DNA, and it felt like a transmission for people who were going in during the lockdown that happened in 2020 and 2021. So when everybody else was watching the news and talking about the lockdown, my partner and I, we went inside and we locked ourselves inside, and we're coming out because we went so deep in that we realized there was something else available. The virus was the portal to something greater than we ever imagined. And we actually channeled the virus because I did something really ridiculously stupid, actually. I journeyed with it and it was extremely painful, but I did get the meaning of it. And the meaning was really something really simple, actually. It was stop, stop and turn around. And that's what we did. We went the opposite direction to everyone else that, not everyone, but a lot of people. And we went in. We went inside and we started working with each other every day. No exaggeration. We spoke to each other between 6 and 12 hours every day for 1,000 days over Zoom. And it was incredible. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And we just worked using each other as a mirror to open each other open. And the more we did that, the more of our innate started to come in. And when we saw that video of Cryon talking about the innate, we went into ceremony and I said out loud, Hazel wasn't expecting me to do it. It just came out. I just said, I made this deep prayer, this is available to anyone. I said, I I wish to unlock my 12 layers of my DNA. I wish to unlock my innate. And we felt this profound unlocking. And then the journey started of embodying that. And we started embodying going up the dimensions. I remember when we crossed over from the fourth to the fifth dimension, it was crazy. It was like this divide came straight down the middle, and I could see the fourth and the fifth. And we had to make a choice. I had to make this choice for love. And it's very difficult for a man to constantly say to love because of all the judgments and manipulations we're taught about the feminine. And so I had to really sacrifice my ego and give up all of my toxic masculinity and toxic patriarchy to choose for something greater. And then this greater awakening, this reality came in and shifted the old reality. And it was like, whoa, my eyes had to adjust. I got new eyes. My intellect slowly started to increase, and my physical endurance is just through the roof. Like I'm really shocked at my physical pain threshold has gone through the roof. It's always been high, but I can do there's this exercise I do from Chinese Kung Fu called horse dance, and I used to cry after like 60 seconds. Now I can do like easily between 6 and 10 minutes, and it still hurts, but the pain turns into pleasure, and it's incredible. It's so incredible what the innate brings, and it brings so many gifts, so many gifts. And what happens is we start cleaning the normal stuff that stands out, the trauma from our childhood, but then it starts to unlock latent memories, and it goes through the Akash and stuff like that. And this is where walk-ins come in, right? Because when we unlock trauma, when we face our fears, what we're doing is we're asking our soul to come back, and we're throwing away that ego, or we're killing that ego. It's not, I wouldn't say it's an exchange. It's like a death, an ego death. And we're dying, and we're being reborn, and life is coming in, and it all happens simultaneously. And that's essentially what a walk-in is. It's really profound. It's a huge expansion and embodiment of your soul. It's divine sovereignty, and that is taken away from us from the moment we're born. You know, when our parents put us sign us up for a birth certificate, we're giving away our sovereignty, and it's it's terrible because it's our birthright. It's our birthright. We're born here. Our mother, Gaia. We shouldn't have to fight for our sovereignty. But this is the injustice that we live in, and this is what it's all about. And what we also learn, which I think is really profound, and again, I'm going to use art. If you've ever seen the X-Men, either the cartoon or the movies or the comics, it's about these, they call them mutants, but they're human beings that have activated their X gene, and they receive powers. And the X is the symbolism of the fifth dimensional upgrade with the diamonds in the center. So the X is the four parts. We have the higher masculine, the higher self masculine, the higher self feminine, and the deep masculine and the deep feminine. And they come together in the center in the diamond consciousness. And there's an evolution there. That's the innate. That's the innate ascension. Like we talk about ascended masters, but we only call them ascended masters when they're died. But we can be ascended masters here now, alive. And when I mean die, nothing ever really truly dies, but when they pass on to the other realm. And so what we had to do is we had to go. I had to birth myself through the feminine waters first instead of going through the fire, which is what most men do when they begin the spiritual journey. They try to clean their fire first, but you have to go through the water first. I've done a profound video on this. And this means cleaning the emotions and coming into reverence to the feminine, because the feminine has to ascend first. This is part of the reverence of the journey of divine union. And there's only so far you can get on your own, because you have to unlock those hidden genes in your twin flame in the opposite sex. And I've done so many videos on this. I've got a playlist called Divine Union. You can find it in there. So for a man, it's easier to work on the higher self to a certain degree than it is the deep self, because the masculine is naturally more air and fire, and the feminine is more water and earth. That's why the best shamans of the world are definitely feminine. If you believe they're masculine, then there's well, I can speak into that. I've done a video on charlatans about that. But I know there's some great masculine shamans out there, of course, but the true shaman comes from earth, comes from the feminine. And earlier on in the hijack of Adam and Eve, which is the higher feminine and the higher masculine, there was a manipulation of the masculine DNA. That's why, in order to get to the feminine, in order to get to Gaia, but I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole other story. Um, so the smart body is the integration of the innate. It's where you can heal anything, and this is what my partner and I have been doing. And I'm gonna I'm gonna get into the really cool stuff now. So number three, what causes a walk-in to happen, right? So this is connected to what I'm saying. You are healing your DNA, right? Now, what's happened, like they did with the jab, it severs DNA. Luckily, I never took it, but it is possible to heal it. There's this, how do I say this? Ghost DNA. They call it junk DNA, right? And I there's many ways of for me to describe what junk DNA is. One way of describing it is it's the unconscious, right? So if there's the unconscious and the conscious, the conscious part is very small compared to the unconscious, just like the DNA. They say 98% or something thereabouts is junk DNA. That's what scientists call it, right? And this is because of logic, which is another conversation, right? Logic is a grasp at control of something that is infinite. It's ridiculous. So that junk DNA is not junk DNA. That's the innate. That's the innate. And um, my partner's in the higher percentile. She's above the 50%, which is absolutely wild of activating her DNA. Women are naturally better at this because they're spiritual powerhouses. They're more in touch with their heart, and you can't do this level of work in the mind. It's really dangerous because it's so powerful. It can make you lose your mind. And that's why I'm going to talk about later on about walk-ins versus possessions. How do you know if it's a walk-in? I mean, it's pretty easy, but I'm going to talk about that because that's really important. Working in the mind. I'm just going to make a quick note about that actually. Right. So yeah, this is about the path to redemption. What causes a walk-in to happen? It's about redemption. And this is a collective wound of the genocide of tribe. What caused it, who's to blame, all of that nonsense. So much toxic shame around it, and it's horrendous. I've had to grieve it so many times because it's happened throughout every civilization that's ever been on this earth. There's been some different version of this karmic repetition of genocide of cultures, shamanic heritage, gifts, our history, her story. So much has been taken. There's a huge amount of justice, and it takes an enormous amount of work and holding yourself in the depth with a partner. That's what I've done. It's too difficult to do on your own, and you shouldn't have to do it on your own. It's really important to work through this consciously and very carefully. It needs an enormous amount of reverence. And essentially, the path to redemption is undamming the soul to retrieve the soul from hell. And when I use the word hell, I mean the underworld. It's best to work with Greek mythology because it's probably the most accurate form of story and art that really helps. Well, it helps me understand the journey of reclaiming the parts of my soul that have been taken into, like, the river Styx, for example, is this river where if you drink from it, you forget who you are, right? And we've all forgotten who we are. So that there's this thing about being stuck in the underworld. There's also this other river, is it the Lake of Lamenting, where and lamenting is a form of complaining and it's a form of whinging, and we get stuck in this whinge, and this is what I've had to go through. And in order to go to reclaim that, we have to find that part of our soul that's fallen into that river. We have to pay the toll to Charon, the the ferryman, and we have to find a way of pulling ourselves back out and then climbing back out through hell. This is why it's so dangerous and really, really, really difficult. But it can be easy. And I offer soul coaching and guidance on this because I've had to go through it so many times that I wouldn't want somebody else to go through that because it sent me to the brink many, many times. And so this has been part of my process, part of my destiny and my divine purpose to learn these things so that I could be here in this time to help guide other people through this. And I get great pleasure from being in service and doing this. And I'm writing books on this to help people through the process. So the path to redemption, I want to talk about the DNA again, the junk DNA. Look at it like as if 98% of our DNA has been sabotaged, look at it as spiritual DNA or ghost DNA. And so when we heal, that spiritual DNA becomes integrated and it becomes a physical connection. Imagine like a new synapse connecting. But again, that's brain. I'm talking about the whole body, the whole spiritual essence of who we are, our consciousness, our love consciousness through all the elements of our body. And when we are healing, we're acknowledging those lost parts of ourselves that have been given away, stolen, or have died. Not died, that's not the right word, but be a past life where we've had a horrible death or something, and the shame of that has been buried deep in our heart. And it's about going there, finding the courage to love that part of yourself again and reclaim it. And that activates a part of your DNA and you get a walk in. And the only way to receive a walk in is to make room for it. And I'll talk about that in section 4. I'll make a note of that. Spiritual love in DNA. Yeah, that's really important. Right. So the path to redemption is about overcoming denial. It's about embracing your darkness and your lightness. Most people talk about love and light, but what about love, light, and darkness? And darkness is better to work with the idea of the deep. So the darkness is the depth because we don't. I'm not talking about the distortion of darkness. I'm talking about the purity of darkness, which my partner and I we call that deep. And because it's like being at the bottom of the ocean, there's no light, and it's really there's a lot of pressure. It's very sensual and it's quite scary because it's just this open expanse of water, which is essentially emotion. And when you go down there and you haven't cleansed it, it's full of grief. And if you're not careful, you can drown in that grief. That's why working in the deep for a masculine is quite difficult unless you do it with a feminine who's used to that. And the same is true when working high over women. If you look at the most common, um, how do I say this? The most common things that go wrong in working with higher consciousness or deeper consciousness. For masculine, it's when he goes into too deep into his emotions, there's suicide. For a woman who goes too deep into cognitive expanse, she loses her mind, committed, something like that. And this is because of the not being able to be guided by the feminine or the masculine, helping each other. It can't be done alone. That's what I mean by that. And so I think one day I would find it really, I don't know why, but I get this. I would love to help those people who have been committed because they've been told to believe that they've lost their mind, but they were misled that way. And they haven't lost their mind. They've just been hijacked. And this is why I'm going to talk about this later. I'm going to talk about possessions of what happens when you lose your mind, what that truly is, because that happened to me and I managed to get myself through it. So you have to sacrifice your ego to receive these walk-ins. And this is the path to redemption. And there's so many different ways of doing this, so many different ways. And they're parts of your journey. And this is very much to do with your ancestors. Connecting with your ancestors is really important. And the color blue is very important as well. It's the best way to connect with ancestors. And one of the most powerful stones, if you work with crystals, is turquoise. Real turquoise, genuine turquoise is a very good portal to connect with your ancestors. And what you're doing when you're healing your DNA is you're also healing your ancestors. And the more you heal, it's like you're bringing in another warrior to support you, or another shaman, another magician, another wizard, another lover, another mother, um, another king, another sovereign to help you on the journey. And your ancestors stand behind you. If you can see with your spiritual eye, you can see my ancestors behind me. They're here with me. They're here with me and they're helping me. And I'm helping them with my love. And I'm their descendant. I'm their leader because I'm here now and I've chosen to embody my purpose, my divine purpose. And I said all of that cruelty that has happened in my bloodline and my spiritual line, my ancestral line, stops here with me. And this is how we take responsibility for our innate, for our walk-ins, for our lives, and for the collective well-being of the whole of humanity. So when we are healing ourselves and not each other, when we're healing ourselves, I mean, trying to rescue people, when we focus on healing ourselves, we are in great service to the collective. We're in great service to spirit. We're in great service to Gaia. We're in great service to those who we love. It's really important to balance that. Self-service is so important. You can't love somebody outside of yourself unless you love yourself inside. And this is the process that goes in the opposite direction to dogma, away from dogma to true faith and divinity. Episode 6 of Walk the Squawk on my sister channel, Prophecy Walkers, we talk about that because there's a lot of that going on at the moment with the death of the Pope. Um, Another thing that causes a walk-in to happen is taking the bold steps to do things you've never done before. So overcoming your fears. So one of the things I had to integrate, right, is first time I took plant medicine, I just fell for 20 minutes. It felt like 20 minutes, but it was only I think I was only under for a minute, and it was me falling from heaven to earth as an angel. I was like, how the hell am I gonna integrate that? And I did a bungee jump, and I'm terrified of heights, but I did this bet with a friend where um she was scared of swimming, so I took her not skydiving, scuba diving. And so because she did it and she overcome her fears, I had to do a bungee jump. And I would never do it again, but at least I can say I did it. That's really extreme. I'm not saying you need to do that. It's ridiculous. That was before I even started my spiritual journey. But these are the kind of things that level of devotion that is needed to do something you've never done before, like chase your dreams and paint that painting, create that business. These kind of things, all the things that we're afraid of, is essentially how you receive the walk-in and how you integrate it is to face your fears. Now, some people think that walk-ins are linked to traumatic experiences or near-death experiences. There's some truth to that, but not to lower emotions, not to like depression or something like that. Near-death experiences are a quick way of receiving walk-ins because you're completely open. But most walk-ins come in through a different means. So I'm going to talk about that now. Number 4, how to receive a walk-in. So I mentioned earlier about sacrificing your ego. When we shatter the soul, we're essentially doing an exchange, and this is about the narcissistic law of attraction, which I've done so much work on, healing narcissism. I'll give you an example of how this happened to me. There's two sides to the law of attraction. We can attract abundance and love, or the opposite, fear and negativity. And when I was younger, I had there was a really belligerent divorce in my family between my parents, and the household became very dark when my mother left. She was chased out of a first floor window. I won't go into too many details, but it was quite traumatic it was traumatic for the whole family, and we're still healing. But I went head first into healing that. And if you see my video on the Holy Grail, that's the true expression, the emotional expression of a lifetime of healing the mother wound, the abandonment wound of what happened that day when that happened. And these traumatic experiences are portals to help us evolve and heal. And they're set there not by circumstance, but by our soul contract. It's like a divine guidance. But there is still choice. I'm not saying we have to choose for those negative experiences, but use myself as an example. At the age of 6, I had no control over that. It was part of my destiny for my mother to go through that, and my whole family. It's just been part of my soul contract. And the sacrificing yeah, so sorry, I was talking about the law of attraction. So when after that process, the house became very dark, very demonic over a period of years, and my father took a downward turn, and so the rest of my family. And cut a long story short, I started getting physical beatings, violence, and emotional violence, and I was really, really innocent kid. We all are, but I held it for as many years as I could before I broke. And this is what I talk about, exchanging the soul for the ego. My abuser was several years older than me, and I have compassion for all of this, right? A bully is not a bully without being bullied. A narcissist is not a narcissist without being receiving narcissistic abuse, right? It's just a continual passing on of pain throughout the generations. This is why I say it stops here with me, right? So I'm not blaming anyone that hurt me. I forgive everyone, but I've had to go in and take responsibility for that and heal that because I chose that. I know it sounds crazy, but I did. I chose that, right? And so I'm talking about the law of attraction. I remember when I was a very young age, and this didn't happen until I was further on in my spiritual journey, where I remembered the choice I made, where I became part of the dark side. I chose that if I can no longer receive physical violence, so I'm going to start dishing back physical violence, even though I was like a little kid. But I just turned into this wild little animal. I was like, and kicking shins, biting, just biting, just went wild. And that day, I started to attract darkness because I chose for it. And it's really sad, yes, but it's taught me a valuable lesson that I've been able to pass on, right? This is how narcissism seeps into us. It preys on weakness. If we're not strong enough, and how's a 6-year-old kid, a 7-year-old kid supposed to be strong enough to fight against someone who's a lot older than you? It's ridiculous, right? So yeah, I could have died, right? So what do? We have to protect ourselves from death, and that's how I had to protect myself. I had to fight back, and I wasn't, wise or older enough to say, "Hey, no, no, thank you. Please don't do that to me." But what happened was that the nicer I was, so the more love I was, the more I was beaten. And this is what happens to a lot of us. We're beaten for our innocence because there's so much shame and toxic ignorance in society that love hurts. But that's not true. If you watch my video on healing, the what is healing? It's the healing of separation, right? Love only hurts because it's like you've got a wound and a doctor stitches it up. Do you blame the doctor because it hurts, or do you blame the person that causes the wound? I'm not saying it's about blame at all, but this is how society sees. They blame the doctor. The doctor is loving, right? But we started blaming love, and this is how toxic it's become, where the law of attraction has turned itself. This is why I say everybody's going the wrong way, because the law of attraction was turned on its head, where instead of attracting true love, we're attracting separation and ignorance, turning a blind eye to love. Um, so it's really profound, and I love going deep on that. Just checking my notes. Yeah, another way you can receive walk-ins, right? So a lot of people wait for it to happen. You can be proactive. My partner and I were proactive. Like I said, we went inwards. You can call them in. You can call them in instead of waiting for a soul contract to happen. But how do you know the soul contract's going to happen if you're not ready for it and you're not following your destiny? Um, so we called it in. Yeah, called it in. Um, call in your innate. You can do that anytime. Do a ceremony for it. That's what I did. We did it several times. Called it in several times. And each time it got stronger and stronger. And it takes a lot of patience, devotion, calm, and being in the body. Another way to receive it is dancing. So, and I'm not talking about I forget the name of it. What's it called? That's biodanza. I'm not talking about biodanza. Biodanza is a method, yes, of course. But I'm just talking about full-on expression. Most of my walk-ins have come in when I've just gone full-on expressing my soul. And when I first started out, I didn't know how to do that. Like if you watch my video on why men sexualize women, it's actually about dancing. And it's when I was afraid to dance, and so I'd only ever dance in my bedroom. But when I met my partner, I started to dance in front of her. And it was really sacred for me to be witnessed in that. And when I did that, that was me doing something that I'd never done before. And so that was a sacred process of embodiment of love, essentially. It's an expression of love, it's overcoming fear. So for me, that was huge. And so I started to receive huge walk-ins. I remember one time I was dancing. I can't remember who it was to. I think it might have been like Prince or George Michael or someone, so some 80s music. And it was felt like this spiritual sledgehammer, just went boom, and my eyes went whoa like this. And I felt like my consciousness just turned into, I have no words for it. No words for it. I thought I was going to lose my mind. It was like, whoa, boom. And then I came in, and I was like, so dancing is a really powerful one. And in order to receive a walk-in, it needs complete surrender and relaxation. That's why dancing is surrender, because when you're full on dancing and just letting your limbs flow and moving in rhythm to music, you're in and this happened in ceremony. I don't just mean, out dancing. I was dancing for my ancestors and for myself, and that's really sacred. And it's also a sacrifice because I talk about movement. I'm doing an integration video on walk-ins. Talk about movement. Movement is a really powerful form of integrating and calling in your innate. And when you are doing that, you're creating exorcisms to remove ego from through that pain of movement. If it's intense movement, intense exercise, like I said about horse stance, then it burns out the ego and makes more room for light to come in. So extreme exercise can also open you up spiritually for opening. That's why I know there's a lot of plant medicine ceremonies, native ceremonies where they dance and they do lots of dancing. That's a really, really great way of innate embodiment, really powerful. Number five, what happens when the DNA is activated? So yeah, we've spoken a lot about DNA and it's really profound. Walk-ins do trigger latent DNA codes and spiritual gifts, which are, you could say they're present in the body, yes, but like I said, it's like a ghost DNA, and when that spirit comes in, you then have to take the necessary steps to integrate that and embody that so that it becomes part of you, and then turn it into a reality. This is what, a lot of my offerings are on my website and on my YouTube channel. It's about turning a psychedelic experience into a psychedelic reality. It is possible. It really is. My partner and I found a way to do that, and it's really good fun. It's really good fun. Um, Higher intelligence. So I got a note here about higher intelligence. So when the DNA is activated, I know society loves to focus on intelligence and the mind, but I'm talking about the purity of intelligence. I'm not talking about the egoic intellectualization of everything and trying to be superior. I'm talking about the heart, the mind being a humble servant to the heart and being connected to the heart. And what happens is your intellect slowly increases, and when it increases, it's a bit like that film where he eats the pill and he becomes super intelligent. I forget the name of it. And it's a bit like that. You start to slowly increase, and you start to understand all of the spiritual connections to animism around you in life. A bit like I call it God consciousness. It's like seeing through the people call it like a hologram. It's not a hologram. It's God consciousness. It's love. The Matrix is a hologram. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about connection to nature, the connection to our true nature. We're not separate from nature. We are nature. And the intellect helps us fully understand that our journey isn't about seeking knowledge because we already know. It's about recreation, creation. It's always been about that. And we have to recreate ourselves in every moment. That's why it's important to live in the moment, to live in the present. But you can't do that unless you heal the past. You can't live in the present until you heal your past. So, um, yeah, I've already spoken. I got a note here about higher endurance to pain and fitness. Yeah, I've already spoken about that. So when the DNA is activated, not only does it unlock intellect and loads of other gifts, but you get this higher endurance. It's not something that just activates on its own. You have to come to it. It's called co-creation. It's like this bridge between you and spirit. You have to come to meet spirit at the same time, and then this bridge. Spirit's waiting for us. All the ancestors are waiting here with the gifts going, come, 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 come. And the only way you can do that is through the path to redemption, the redemption of the church calls them sins, but the purity of sins is betrayal. So the path to redemption is healing the sins of betrayal, and that's really that can be really difficult. But the when you reach the other side, when you reach the bridge, the amount of love that you're met with makes it so much worthwhile, and you realize that that fear you had was just that fear, an illusion. And often what I find, probably 99.9% of my journey, all of the times I've been afraid of something, it's been love. It's been me mirroring me. And it's happened time and time again, and it's so difficult sometimes to overcome that because you're like, but I'm not scared. I'm not scared. Why would I be afraid of love? And it's this deep programming that's in the body that you have to get out, and it's so stupid, but this is exactly what we're all going through. Number seven, walk-ins versus possession. Right. So I'm going to talk about what happened to me. It happened when I was with Hazel. I think this was before we were together, so because we started off as friends, and she was really worried, and she had a right to be, because I wasn't in the same country as her. It happened. I contacted her during it over Zoom call, and I journeyed on my own on the Lionsgate portal, which I think is probably one of the, if not the most powerful portals of the entire year, the 8 and it was really dangerous, really dangerous. And I came face to face with an extraterrestrial hijack, and that could have felt like a walk-in, but the difference between a walk-in and a possession or a hijack is extreme amounts of fear, like you feel like you're going to lose your mind. But I'm going to give you the most valuable piece of advice that I can ever give you, and I have used this and practiced this time and time again. If you are feeling like you're about to lose your mind, it's an illusion, and you just have to ask it to leave with intention. Get out like that. You are the dominant force. Get out of me immediately. It is done. Or you can say, truth, who are you? And say, you're fired. You are fired. Get out of me. It's with intention because you override it with authority. That's how you destroy illusions. You destroy it with love and authority, love for yourself. Do not deny yourself your love. Do not deny yourself your soul. Give it intention. Get it out. So, yeah, I don't ever recommend journeying on your own, especially on the 8/8. So that was really dangerous. I felt like I was going to lose my mind. I had cognitive dissonance, and it was a hijack. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die on my bed, and my mum's going to walk in and find her son dead on the bed. That's how deep in the illusion I had fallen, just because I had this feeling that I was going to lose my mind. And what that is, that illusion of insanity comes from wizardry manipulation. It's masculine in its energy, and it's from shame, toxic shame that's hidden in the light, and it's from addiction to slavery as well. And the antidote is actually divine ecstasy, which means which comes through catharsis. And catharsis is self-exposure of toxic impurities and shame. And there's a whole process to that. That's a whole other video, right? But anyway, I managed to get through that. And so it's really obvious. If you're feeling like you're going to die, it's not a walk-in, it's a hijack. And that's only ever happened that severely. It's only ever happened once to me, but there's many attempted tries that happened to me because I found I was going in the wrong direction. So that's really important to say as well. If that ever happens to you, it means you're going in the wrong direction. You're not going in your heart, you're in your mind, and that's how they get you. Have to be in your body, have to be relaxed at all times, and realize that any fear that's coming at you is love. And when you surrender into your heart, nothing can touch you. I offer all of this coaching through my website. You can check it out. Um, yeah, so I've got here working in the mind. It's so toxic to work in the mind. You can't do that. You can't. And I'm talking through experience, everything through experience. I was a man that came to my partner who worked in the body, worked in love, and I misled her by saying, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that, because that's what my logical mind was doing. It was misleading me. And these are the hijacks that the masculine are implanted with. It's why they're more um, uh, prone to toxic patriarchal manipulation because it's in our DNA, and they use that as a sabotage to get to the feminine. I always say this to men. It's not about protecting your partner from other men. It's about protecting them from yourself. Number 8, signs and symptoms of walk-ins. So you're reclaiming lost parts of yourself, and that will start coming through as you start remembering how you felt lost. You're reclaiming lost cherished memories of your childhood, like I'm still doing that. I'm still, because it takes so long. There's so many beautiful memories are coming up. I got this memory of memories from when I was 1 years old, really, really old memories. And I had this blank time between when my mum left and to when she gained custody of us. This blank of memory. Apart from all the traumatic things, I remembered all those, but all the nice things that I had forgotten, and so I started reclaiming those. So it's really beautiful, reclaiming stuff like teddies that you had when you were a kid that you really you'd forgotten. And I don't mean remembering the mind, I mean remembering how that felt. And the amount of grief that that opens up, the portal to love, is astounding. It's so beautiful, it's so sacred. I really highly recommend that. Um, Akashic memories will come up as well. I speak about this a lot. I was sat on my bed one day having a conversation with over video with Hazel, my partner, and one half side, my masculine side, just started moving on its own. It's the most weird feeling I've ever had. It's never happened since. And it was this part of me trying to tell me through movement about this really, 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 really traumatic event that happened to me hundreds of years ago. Um, and it was so traumatic that it still hadn't healed. And I don't even want to talk about it. It's so traumatic. And it was hidden in the root. That's why working in the root chakra is so difficult, because there's a lot of infiltration energy there. It's very, very difficult. And the mother wound and the father wounds are there as well. And the Akashic memories are also really cool because you start to see what our past was truly like. Like I never believed until I saw it that there were spaceships in Egypt, but that's exactly what happened. That they overpowered their civilizations through slavery, and it all of the stuff that we go through, all the negative stuff that isn't love, it didn't come from here. It was brought here. And so working through the Akash can be really cool, can also be a distraction. It's best to stay grounded and to work on this lifetime, what you're going through now, and all of that stuff when you're ready will show itself. So don't focus on that. If you're in meditation, focus on how much more you can come into your heart and face your toxic shame. And the more you focus on that, the less you'll be distracted. Because if you start going through these rabbit holes, if you watch my video on Easter, Rabbit holes are a huge distraction. Conspiracy theories, whether they be true or not, are a huge distraction from making your dreams come true. This is why they create them. Rabbit holes are the rabbit afraid to come out into the light, afraid to come out into life. So they dig more, dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's just another expression of fear. Another sign and symptom of walk-ins is new expressions. This is really funny because it can get really weird. If you've ever worked with different, beings, different races, like mantis beings or bugs, not bugs. That's not nice to say that. I don't know what to say. Scarab beings. I've worked with wasp beings. It's beautiful, and when they come in, you get these different facial expressions, different verbalization, different scoffs, like noises, movements. Dancing can get really weird, and it just gets really good fun. If I'm honest, it gets really good fun. It's like powerful wizardry if you know how to use it correctly. Like if somebody's being really controlling, you just go skibble willy willy willy, really really weird stuff. And it's a really great way of losing control. Um, and control is a really powerful illusion if you allow it to be. Like I remember I went through this ceremony of Hazel where we just started releasing control of everything. I said, I release control of my soul. I release control of everything. I release control of my heart, release control, release control, release control. And like the fear that was trying to stop me from saying that was enormous. But if we're trying to control anything, it's only going to go against us and prevent us from our own destiny. I hope all of this was enlightening and really helpful. And I'm going to do a separate video about the integration of all of this. Otherwise, this video will go on for ages. And I'm really open to interaction and comments and questions. And please know that I'm very open to working with you on a one-to-one basis, group talks or anything like that. Please check out my website, thesacredrainbowwarrior.com, and please like and subscribe all my videos. Go through all of them and like them all. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.